That's an excellent question. I think when we think about the scholastic approach of the gleam, the spark, the thing that catches our eye, I think in a complete experience of beauty, that experience is going to ground us in the larger objective reality that undergirds it. I think a more romantic approach to beauty really focuses on that subjective dimension. And I think this is part of why approaching beauty not as consumption, an experience of consumption, but as an experience of contemplation is so important. I was going to mention Joseph Pieper's Leisure, the Basis of Culture, and also a really small book, Only the Lover Sings, which has several articles in it, short essays and speeches that all pertain to art. What I think a critical thing to overcome this kind of deceptive, if you will, dimension of that beauty can have is to cultivate an attitude in the listener or the viewer that is fundamentally contemplative and is open to the fullness of being. And I think Pieper does an excellent job of sort of placing this before the reader. Our students practice that. We not only, there was something I did mention earlier, which is that we take students, we give them experiences to go off campus to concerts and museums in Boston and also in New York, where they can take what they experience in the classroom and in their own performances into those spaces. But we approach it as a contemplative activity. It's not just a drive-by. We don't just walk through and glance at things and mention this person did that or that person did that. It's really a much deeper contemplative thing, which of course, in certain religious traditions, that's the beginning of a preparation for what will fundamentally be the beatific vision. So learning to see a work of art, learning to listen to a piece of music is a preparation for something much more metaphysical. And I think that's probably the best antidote that I would come up with is to ground that immediate spark that we encounter in something more complete and more textured. So it can be deceiving if we're just walking by or just looking on our phones or whatever. It doesn't have to stop there.
I would also just, although it's deeply philosophical, I would just point out that Jack Maritain does take up this issue in his book Creative Intuition in art and poetry, and then he does talk about specific artistic movements that he does think are misleading. In particular, he's critical of surrealism, and he goes into this philosophy of the person, and kind of basically his argument is that, as I mentioned earlier, we have a capacity for beauty, but we also have an intellect. And so what Maritain is arguing is that beauty understood as passing through the practical intellect and through the reason. It's about integrating beauty with these other things. And so, yes, I think Maritain would say that absent the integration of beauty into other aspects of our humanity, it absolutely can be misleading. The other way, which you're referring to, that beauty can be misleading is when beauty becomes about consumption or it becomes about facile forms of entertainment. And I think some of the, shall I say, practical liturgical wars going on inside of Christianity have to do with the difference between entertainment and beauty. And so, again, I think my sense would be that regardless of what form of the liturgy one has in mind, there's ways that liturgy can be performed in a way that is absolutely uplifting. And then there's other ways that liturgy, frankly, for me, has sometimes been a little bit soul-numbing and deadening and misleading. And my phone really is kind of more interesting than the liturgy I'm sitting in. So I think we need a healthy discussion around liturgy that gets out of kind of the facile battles that sometimes happen, but really thinking about what makes for good liturgy. Which, by the way, the McGrath Institute at Notre Dame has some wonderful resources on this. So I'll just point that out.